Coming up next, we are going to celebrate philanthropy in Southeast Michigan. We're going to hear from some of the area's top philanthropic leaders about the impact of charitable giving and its changing role here in Metro Detroit. Plus, we're going to pay tribute to the passion and commitment of the individuals, the corporations, and the foundations that make a real difference in our communities. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this special program, National Philanthropy Day 2023, presented by the Association of Fundraising Professionals, Greater Detroit Chapter.
Support for National Philanthropy Day 2023 is provided by the Kresge Foundation and by these sponsors: Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation, Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan, Corewell Health, the Henry Ford, W.K. Kellogg Foundation, Wayne State University, Cranbrook Educational Community, Henry Ford Health, Leader Dogs for the Blind, Nonprofit Personnel Network, Plant Moran, AAA, the Auto Club Group, Autism Alliance of Michigan, COACT Detroit, Diversified Portfolios Incorporated, Hammond and Associates, Judson Center, Macomb Community College Foundation, Melissa Weiss, Multimatic, Oakland University, Saxe Construction, Schoolcraft College Foundation, Vista Maria, Walker Miller Energy Services, and the YMCA of Metropolitan Detroit. The Association of Fundraising Professionals Greater Detroit Chapter presents National Philanthropy Day 2023.
Good evening. I'm your host, Stephen Henderson, and I'm here on the grounds of the Mary Grove Conservancy for tonight's celebration of philanthropy. For the past 32 years, the Greater Detroit Chapter of the Association of Fundraising Professionals has honored local philanthropists, volunteers, and fundraisers for National Philanthropy Day. This year, the group is marking the occasion with 3 events: an awards gala, a breakfast roundtable, and this special program that you're watching tonight. Detroit Public Television is pleased to partner with AFP Greater Detroit for the 4th straight year. Over the next 90 minutes, we're going to bring you important conversations from AFP's sold-out breakfast roundtable that featured an incredible group of philanthropic leaders. The event was held at the Durfee Innovation Society, which is home of the nonprofit organization Life Remodeled. AFP Greater Detroit Chapter President Leslie Carmona opened the event and was followed by the chair of the National Philanthropy Day Leadership Breakfast, Steve Reagan.
Today marks the beginning of the celebration of our National Philanthropy Day, a day that recognizes the great contributions of philanthropy and those people active in the philanthropic community to the enrichment of our world. Making today happen requires an incredible number of volunteers, including Steve Reagan, chair of our National Philanthropy Day Leadership Breakfast, who, along with an incredible group of volunteers, is responsible for orchestrating everything that you see here today. I also want to thank our incredible National Philanthropy Day Committee, led by Vice President of National Philanthropy Day, Paula Rodriguez, and National Philanthropy Day co-chairs, Eileen Savage and Gary Dems. Thank you so much for everything that you do. We are so lucky. Our chapter and this community would not be able to do what we do without the volunteers that are all around you today. So it is a wonderful day to celebrate them.
This is a really special event for us. Ronald Reagan established National Philanthropy Day by proclamation in 1986 to recognize donors and volunteers for their generosity, the work that they did to make this nonprofit sector possible. You think of all of the things that their donations and their volunteerism support and make possible in our community: healthcare, education, efforts to serve the homeless and feed the hungry, racial and social justice, animal care, arts and culture, public safety, and even economic development. All of these things are made possible by the people we honor on National Philanthropy Day. From the outset, Detroit embraced that holiday, and we grew National Philanthropy Day into one of the largest events in the country, celebrating donors and volunteers. And then 4 years ago, when the pandemic hit, we couldn't do our sold-out event. It gave us an opportunity to rethink how we celebrated philanthropy and an opportunity to have a deeper discussion So working with our partners at Detroit Public Television, the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan, the Kresge Foundation, the Ralph Wilson Foundation, and others, we created a television program. And we had a long discussion about philanthropy. Our donors and honorees loved it because it actually shifted the focus back onto the work that they were supporting, to the nonprofits that they were helping to fund.
The first roundtable examined the changing role of philanthropy here in Greater Detroit. The panel was moderated by Mitch Albom, who's the founder of Say Detroit, and it featured Mary Culler of the Ford Motor Company Fund, Rick DeVore from the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan, Wendy Lewis Jackson with the Kresge Foundation, Faye Nelson of W.K. Kellogg Foundation, and Kylie Mitchell-Wells from Ballmer Group.
Let me start by asking our panelists to share one thing that their organization has done recently here in our city that they're most proud of.
So good morning, everyone. It's so great to see you. And again, I'm Wendy Jackson. I'm a managing director with the Kresge Foundation. I lead our work here in the city of Detroit. And Kresge is a national foundation. We fund all across the country. Our focus is in America's cities, and we work to provide opportunity to families with low incomes, as well as just overall quality of life, economic equity, and climate resilience. One thing, that's a hard one, but I will lift up at least to get the conversation started. We had an opportunity at Kresge a couple of years ago to work with a number of partners to reimagine the former Mary Grove College campus as Detroit's first cradle-to-career campus. So a campus that provides early childhood, or really birth and prenatal, through early childhood, K-12, and college and career. We were able to work with a number of different partners from the University of Michigan, Starfish Child and Family Services, as well as the Detroit Public Schools Community District to reimagine this new way of providing education in the city of Detroit. And now we have 1,000 students on that campus at various stages and ages in their educational journey. So that is one project that I'll lift up.
Thank you. Faye?
Hey, good morning, everyone. And it is a pleasure to see you, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Faye Nelson. I'm the Michigan Director for the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. My responsibilities include statewide strategy development and oversight on all of the investments that the Kellogg Foundation makes throughout the state of Michigan, with a concentration in the city of Detroit, Grand Rapids, and Battle Creek. So it's our focus is on children, thriving children, working families to support those children to thrive, and what we call equitable communities of opportunity. The Kellogg Foundation is a global foundation. We fund throughout the country with a particular emphasis in Mississippi, New Orleans, New Mexico, as well as the state of Michigan, which is our largest funding place, which is the portfolio I oversee. In addition, we also fund Mexico as well as Haiti. So it's, again, our focus is on thriving children, working families, and equitable communities of opportunity. It's hard to answer the question of what we're most proud of, because I'm most proud of just the foundation and being able to invest in all of the programs that we're able to support our children. Our bodies of work include early childhood education, what we call equity in employment, and health equity. And so taking all of that into consideration, I think that one of the projects that really lifted me up so much was our effort to join in partnership with other philanthropy to support our DPSCD children during the pandemic. During the pandemic, at the very beginning, there was a real absence, if you will, of the tools for our children to be able to virtually learn. And so of the 40,000 children of a 50,000 population, 40,000 of those children had no educational appropriate devices to utilize to learn online, as well as the online technology. So we joined, again, other philanthropic organizations, and in about 3 months, we were able to raise a little bit over $26 million to support all of our children. And these educational tools, or these tools provided not only the children with an opportunity, but families as well, in addition to providing technical assistance support. So that's one of the projects that I reflect on and really lift me up as we think about, or as I reflect on how we've been able to support our children and families right here in Detroit.
Thanks. Kylie?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kylie Mitchell-Wells, Executive Director for Balmer Group's Southeast Michigan office. Balmer Group is a national foundation with offices in LA as well as in Bellevue, right outside of Seattle. As a person overseeing this work here, it has been just really rewarding to usher Balmer Group into the philanthropic marketplace and into the community here. We have been welcomed with open arms by all of this institutional philanthropy that you see on the stage. I say we're the new kids on the block because we've only been around for about 8 years nationally. Here in Southeast Michigan, under my leadership, we've really done a lot around K-12 education, trying to bridge the gap between Oakland, Wayne, and Macomb counties. We are a regional funder, and we're working with many partners in the educational system throughout the region to really bridge the gap, help with not only the educational efforts, but a lot of the segregation that exists. Our co-founders are all about equity, economic mobility. How do we help people thrive? And we know that education is the great equalizer for that. And whether you decide to go to college or go directly into a job, we want to make sure that our investments are creating those pathways for young people.
Great, thanks. Mary?
Well, good morning. Excuse me. I'm Mary Culler. I'm the president of the Ford Fund, the philanthropic arm of the Ford Motor Company. And, you know, it's interesting. I came into this role about 6 weeks before COVID hit. So you can imagine coming in to lead the philanthropic arm of the company and then really not being able to be out in the community, meeting many of you and really seeing our programs in action. So I'm thrilled to be here this morning. You know, when we look at our focus areas, we're a global philanthropy, so we do, provide support across the globe in our plant communities, and then, of course, here in Detroit. We focus primarily on essential services, workforce development, and entrepreneurship. When I think about sort of being proud about something, frankly, I'm proud of my own team for the work that they do. I just want to give them a shout out. But I'm also proud of all of you. Many of you are our partners, and you're really on the ground doing the hard work. And what I love to see is what's happening, for example, at our Ford Resource and Engagement Centers. We have 2 in Detroit. And I think what's really special about a place like that, and a place like this, actually, and Marygrove College that was mentioned, is it's such a fantastic platform to actually really understand what communities need, build programs with communities on the ground, and then bring the right partners together to serve those communities. And then when you can see the synergies that happen amongst those partners, where someone comes in to take advantage of one service and then sees others that can be helpful, that's really powerful. And then the impact is so apparent. So for example, at our Southwest FREC, we bring in the legal aid services, we bring in all kinds of other services, and our tax services that are done with the Society of I always forget the name, but Accounting Aid Society, thank you, is incredible. They helped bring $7.5 million back into the community and people's pockets. Imagine that. All done with volunteers. So I'm really proud of that kind of work, and I really just want to thank all of you who really are on the ground helping communities.
Thanks, Mary. Rick?
Thanks, Mitch. I'm Rick DeVore. I'm the president and CEO of the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan. We're a 7-county foundation. With that said, we do have a couple of statewide initiatives in opioids and the Michigan Justice Fund. It's kind of a bummer being me going after these 4 ladies, but when you ask about what you're most proud of, I would say, like in real estate, it's location, location, location. For me, it's collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. And One example recently that was really exciting to me and shows collaboration on our team has to do with the Henry Ford Greenfield Village Farm to Table program, where it's addressing not only sustainability and healthier food, but also getting rid of the stigma of free and reduced lunch program. Well, it'll eliminate that. But for me, the most exciting thing was to see that the person of the year on this was a gentleman named Melvin Person, who is a returning citizen. And he received a grant from the Michigan Justice Fund that we run. And so not only a chance to meet him, but my wife and I went out to his farm, saw the work he was doing, and it really showed me the interconnectivity really between our grant making. And, you know, I would echo what you said, though, that, you know, to me, people ask me, hey, how's it going? What's it like? To me, it's stimulating to be around great employees that are there because they believe in the work. It's not a job to our employees. So to me, that's what brings me into work every day.
Great. So let's begin with, in your view, did this region's funders take enough risks with their grant making in terms of making grants to new or small organizations, in terms of taking on controversial issues, by making investments in promising programs but maybe unproven ones yet? So maybe I'll start with you, and lucky you.
Yeah, I love this question. But I lost the coin toss in the back. So
the rest will be receiving in the second half, by the way.
No, I like this question because in many ways it sets the context for where philanthropy is right now in Detroit and how we all work collectively and together on so many projects. But in many ways, whether it's through our individual philanthropy or how we work collectively, I think we're all just really proud of how Detroit, the city of Detroit in particular, sets the pace for philanthropy across the country. We are very fortunate to have so much philanthropy in our hometown and in our community. And we have demonstrated a way of working and a muscle over the last 10 to 12 years that I think others look to in philanthropy across the country. And it's because of the way we think about capital, and particularly risk capital, to catalyze social change. So many of us are thinking intentionally about our philanthropy and our work in our community in terms of what is the ground wire that supports families with low incomes, the ground wire that advances racial equity and justice, the ground wire that thinks about how we balance new organizations with some of the organizations that have been in our portfolios for a long time doing great work. And with that comes, I think, just a new risk tolerance because of what we have all been through, again, in our individual foundations, but also in our collaborations together.
You know, Mitch, we do make proof of concept grants, and I think, you know, sometimes they don't result in further grants because maybe the concept doesn't work. But you know, I think many times we're very interested in being given validity to whatever the project is. And with that said, usually many times it may be first in to attract more. You know, we don't have sometimes the dollar size that some of the people on the stage have, but I think this gets back to that collaboration where it validates, if you will. And I think what you're also referencing is during the pandemic, a lot of us kind of relaxed our reporting rules and so forth. And it does seem to be a trend, you know, back towards that.
Well, let me actually pick up on that and ask that question to some of the rest of you. There was during the pandemic a loosening of the restrictions, understandably so, that could be onerous and given the staffs and depletions of people during the pandemic. But now that has carried on in some organizations, some large organizations as well, have made unrestricted support part of their sort of practices. What do you think of this as a trend now that we're out of the pandemic?
So let me touch on that for a moment. During the pandemic, we were so concerned about our grantees. I mean, our grantees, many of whom are in this room this morning, actually do the work. And so our focus was on how do we, and continues to be, on how do we best support our grantees to do the important work that they are charged to do based upon the investment that we're making. So we began to move, we contacted every grantee of ours to understand how can we best support you. And so in some instances, it was providing general operating grants, which is essentially unrestricted grants. In some instances, it was, we're okay, but we just need to suspend, if you will, some of our reporting rules. So what we tried to do was not think about what we felt was in their best interest, but what was in the best interest, listening to our grantees in terms of what was in their best interest, how we could best support them. What I didn't mention when I was introducing myself as far as the Kellogg Foundation is concerned is that we are a race equity foundation. Our focus is on the ground supporting through a race equity lens, community engagement, race equity, as well as leadership development. And so taking all of that into consideration and how we best support our grantees as we moved out of the pandemic, if you will, we continue to reflect on how can we best support the organizations that we fund, all in alignment with what our priorities are from a mission and vision perspective.
Right.
So real quick, in some instances, we will do those general operating grants. In other instances, we will lean in directly to support a particular project in question.
Though I would imagine if you asked any organization, because I know from ours, if you said, well, would lowering the restrictions and the paperwork be good for you, every single one of them would say yes, okay?
It's good for us
so,
too.
So with that in mind, Kylie, how do you, someone starts clapping for that. You know, it's something to consider, which I know from Say Detroit, we've been on the end, we have applications in with literally every one of your organizations, and I know our staff works tirelessly on the paperwork of it. Kylie, do you think that there is some benefit to maybe we learned something during the pandemic about, you know, maybe we're a little too paperwork heavy and not moving as quickly as we possibly could?
Well, definitely from a Bomber Group perspective, we learned that it's really important, especially at time of crisis, to allow the grantees, all of you, to do the great work that you do. We trust the intel that you give to us. We want to be partners that work alongside. That's something that our co-founders talk about very often. Let's make sure that we're rolling up our sleeves, understanding your core issues so we can be responsive in that manner. So yes, from a Bomber Group perspective, we've changed our internal policies around reporting as a result of the pandemic and want to make sure that we're working alongside and being able to adjust and allow that agility that we know is often needed when market conditions change.
Well, and I think it's really important too, because it goes back to your first question about some of the smaller organizations that just don't have the capacity, right, to do all the paperwork you talked about, but also, you know, in the Ford Fund, we do pride ourselves on the programs that we developed, but we did learn through COVID, and even just as we reinvent ourselves, that capacity building is critical. COVID, so many of the smaller organizations were really not going to make it if it wasn't for the fact that we eased up on those restrictions. So actually we're moving much more towards capacity building grants and multi-year grants to really support that organization in the long term. Because that's the other thing, is they don't know when the next round of money's coming. And that can be extraordinarily difficult.
Right.
And I would just say, if I could, just real quick, bottom line is that we really work hard to establish that trust, so that our grantees feel comfortable being able to open up and say to us, here's how you can best support us, be it multi-year, be it capacity building, being program specific.
Mitch, not to sound like a recovering banker or anything, but we're also looking at sizing requirements, right? Yeah. And then also with that said, you know, we realize that many times it's good news, bad news. The good news is you're getting an in-kind service from a CPA firm. The bad news is you're probably at the bottom of the stack, right? And so, you know, timing, but also sizing. You know, we don't need a full audit on a small grant. And the other thing I just want to point out to you is there's also an opportunity for folks that don't even have a 501(c)(3) trying to help them get a fiscal sponsor so they can be on their way. And to me, that does get at some of the equity issue as well.
Yeah.
I would just add that the theme across the panel is, I know within Kresge, but also within my partners and colleagues' foundations, we're always thinking about what do our partners need to be successful? How can we help you win, essentially? And that takes a range of different tools that we have available. It's not just the grant, it's the capacity building, the introductions to other funders. There's just so many things now in our toolbox that the pandemic allowed us to have some time to stop and think about that can better support our partners in being successful in what you do.
Throughout the program tonight, we are going to recognize the 2023 AFP National Philanthropy Day Award recipients. These are the people and organizations that are committed to making life better for residents here in Southeast Michigan. Here's our first group of honorees.
I was a member of the search committee that hired Eileen to come to Cranbrook in the first place. Eileen's brought a sense of appreciation for the importance of the joy of giving. Eileen has had enormous impact on our community. When she arrived, there was very little, if any, advancement infrastructure for the community's work.
All of a sudden, they have a partner like Eileen by my side. You just felt like, now we're ready. Now we're ready to make a big leap forward with regard to development in Cranbrook.
She has built the infrastructure that allows us to do incredibly powerful stewardship. And that has an impact both today and long into the future.
I met Raj Nair when we were starting our pilot employment program for people with autism at Ford Motor Company. Raj has also taken over as chair of our Navigator committee at the board. Our Navigator is our flagship program here at the Autism Alliance.
Raj, to me, has always been a guy who shows up at every meeting, always very attentive, always very thoughtful, and really demonstrates a lot of genuine leadership.
His advocacy of Forward Works was game-changing for not just the Autism Alliance, but for the whole community of people on the spectrum in the state.
I've seen firsthand what he's done for our organization and how much he has helped us move forward towards our mission, and I can't think of a better guy to receive this award.
What impresses me about Shirley is how much she has done for so many, how much she cares about education, how much time she has devoted to working towards positive change in Detroit and throughout Michigan.
She is, in my view, the quintessential person when you reach across the aisle.
Ms. Stancato built a lot of bridges on both sides of the aisle, bridges between community and business in the city of Detroit. Throughout her life, she has not been one to do her work for accolades or acknowledgement. She goes for deeper meaning in the relationships that she builds. She's carried a certain degree of care and concern into all of her endeavors.
Shirley has had an enormous positive impact on her hometown and welcomes others, including me, to do the same.
I would certainly like to say to Ms. Stancato, congratulations, thank you. I hope that the work we do here is a compliment to what you stand for, and I hope this resonates with her.
The AFP Greater Detroit chapter received an honor itself this year. The organization was designated as an AFP Global IDEA Champion. IDEA is an acronym for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access. The IDEA Committee was instrumental in coordinating the breakfast roundtable participants and questions. Chair Natalie Gianos spoke about the committee's work.
Advances in idea in our sector are long overdue but critical, and this work takes so many forms. Some days we spend discussing ways we can foster accessibility and inclusion in our workplace. Others, we think about ways to make our fundraising practices more inclusive, what it means for organizations to serve diverse communities, and my personal favorite, which if you're in my committee, I see some of you here, you know that I will not shut up about, rethinking the conventional philanthropic strategies and beliefs that so many of us were taught are law. Each time we meet as a committee, we talk about a tough article or a piece of research that has the potential to change the way we see our work. We also host programs and events that bring people together and create space for our peers to safely share their experiences in the philanthropic world.
Our next roundtable explored the impact of charitable giving from a Detroit perspective. Jeremiah Steen, a trustee of the Skillman Foundation, moderated the discussion with panelists Lauren Hood from the Institute for Afro-Urbanism, Kate Levin-Markell of the McGregor Fund, Latrice McClendon from the Knight Foundation, and Logan Newman with the Skillman Foundation's Youth Council.
So today is a celebration of philanthropy. So let's start off with something uplifting. Could you each share one of your favorite recent examples of the impact of your work with our nonprofit community in Detroit, and brag a little bit about one of your partners if you want to?
Well, I can't really lift up any one particular work of a partner. I see a lot of partners in the room, and it's really wonderful to see you all. So as far as our work, you know, it's tempting in philanthropy to take credit for the work that you all do, and I think we have to be really careful not to do that. I guess in terms of pride, I'm proud of the way that my team interacts with everybody and the way that they show up in community. I think we listen well, and I think we're curious, and we look for as many ways as we can to be helpful, whether that's grants or connecting people or just being an ear for whatever might be going on and making people feel that they can trust us with telling us all the wonderful things that are going on, but also some of the challenges that they're facing. And really, hopefully making our partners feel like we're there for them and to not feel like they can't bring whatever's going on to us. So there's a way of working that we are valuing more and more and trying to get better at. And I guess in terms of our own organization, that's what I'm proud of. But really, it's about the work that you all are doing every day in community, and that is what we're here to celebrate and support.
So I am on the nonprofit end, so I'm not a funder or a philanthropist. All I do, my organization serves as a fiduciary, so I am a pass-through for a lot of organizations. So I want to talk about what philanthropy has allowed me to do. Is that good? So I started the Institute for Afro-Urbanism in 2021, and it was really a response to the kind of generic way the community development was happening. I feel like Detroit was starting to look like every other city across the country that was in a development phase. And I was like, no, we have a very specific, unique culture. How do we do development that reflects that? So, and I used to be on the inside, always trying to get my colleagues like, we can do this differently. And people were like, well, how do we do that? And I was like, all right, let me create an institute that can think about how we do that. So, the first program that the Institute created is called the Black Thriving Index. So understanding that hundreds of millions of dollars are being poured into different neighborhoods and Black folks are still living like second-class citizens. So I was like, if the things that we're spending money on aren't the things, I wanted to know what are the things. So I've been interviewing Black folks that are thriving and trying to understand what kind of conditions and supports help them get there. So Philanthropy has been funding my Black Thriving Index for about 2.5 years. Grant money has also allowed my institute to purchase property. So I bought a 3,800 square foot church and half acre of land in the North End neighborhood. So we can have a campus that will be like a portal, a place where people from all over the world can come and talk about Afro-urbanism. So what does it look like to do culture forward community development? That space in the North End will be a hub for that. I think those are the two main things, but I have been, I think, really blessed in this moment also to have funders that really support my success. Like every funder that I have, and I'll shout them out. McGregor gave me some money. Kellogg gave me some money. Ford gave me some money, and Skillman gave me some money. And each of my funders, I feel like it's very palpable that they want me to win. They're always like, can we talk to other funders for you? Who else do you have proposals into? Who can we go advocate to on your behalf? And I think that I really, as a Black woman who's a native Detroiter, who's been really lucky to get a lot of money to support her ideas, I feel like I have to get it right. I put a lot of pressure on myself to do everything perfectly, and my funders have been like, child, you're in a startup phase, just relax, figure it out, it's a pilot. And I'm like, really? I can take my time? I can not be so stressed about getting everything right? And I feel like I've been really lucky to have those kinds of funders. So I gotta shout out Carmen at Skillman, Kumar at Kellogg. Kevin Ryan was the first in, and Kevin came in with a $500,000 grant. So my first grant to do my wild, crazy think tank was a $500,000 grant. So when I go out to other funders, they're seeing that, and they know they can't come with like 5 or 10 grand. I'm like, yeah, this is my first grant. What are you gonna do? So yeah, gotta shout out Kevin Ryan for believing in me to that extent. And it's also been multi-year support, which I think is really important. I don't know if this is a new thing, but I spend so much time fundraising and putting together decks and being in conversations, like I just want to stop fundraising. So what has been helpful is to have multi-year support and it's general operating so that I know at least I can pay myself and all the contractors. So that has also been very helpful.
Hello, everybody. I'm Latrice McClendon with the Knight Foundation. Pretty new to this role, not new to philanthropy. So I've been in philanthropy for the last 6 years, coming from corporate philanthropy to private philanthropy. You know, I see a lot of grantees that I previously funded, which I'm excited that you guys are here getting information today. And, you know, Knight being new to the role, again, just a little over 60 days in, you know, our focus for the last 2 years has been the historic North End. And so when you look at our body of work just over the last 2 to 3 years, we have probably invested almost $6 or $7 million specifically to the North End neighborhood on various projects, but one that stands out the most is going to be our Detroit Food Commons project. So we put in $1.5 million into the project, which if you haven't seen it, you should at least ride by. It is a amazing development happening on the corner of Woodward in the North End. You know, right now, I'll be honest with you, the focus has been the North End, but we're open to broadening our strategy. Being new to this role, I have the privilege of being in discovery mode, looking for those opportunities and trying to understand what is most important, what do our grantees need, what do our communities need. And so at this point, you know, while I'm excited at the work we've done in the North End, I'm excited to do more for our city and for the people of our city. So I'm always open to those types of conversations and feedback about what is it that you know, the Knight Foundation in Detroit needs to focus on. And let me just say, we're a national organization. We're not a Detroit-based organization. We are in 26 cities. In 8 of our cities, we have directors. And so we do a lot of work nationally, which I'm proud to participate and be a part of a national foundation. That means that, you know, my job is to get as much money to Detroit as possible, right? And so that is my number one goal, to resource Detroit as much as possible and to be a conduit to make sure that our community projects, things that are happening in Detroit, that we are helping to, and we are investing in catalytic investments here in the city. Thank you.
Logan?
Most def. Can we get a quick round of applause for all the amazing things going on in Detroit? My name is Logan Newman. I currently work for Life Leaders, Inc. I am the Associate Director of Media Communications, and at Life Leaders, we are a youth workforce development program. We work with hundreds of youth around the city of Detroit to provide them resources, network opportunities, help them create on-ramps to opportunities, as well as provide them with the education and skills that they need in order to go out into the adult workforce as well. I also sit on the Youth Council at the Skillman Foundation, which is a notable foundation in the city of Detroit that helps create on-ramps opportunities for youth as well. And recently, I just joined the Board of Trustees for the UMOJA debate team, which is a debate team focused on helping solve critical thinking skills and helping our youth basically solve their conflict resolution skills through debate and through conversations. Most of the work that I do is with youth because, I am youth, and I believe that the future of our city lies in the hands of our youth. I understand that I sit in a room full of well-seasoned individuals, but there's always a lack of youth in the room. And if youth aren't at the table, then unfortunately we are on the menu in some cases. And I wake up every day and I choose to do my job to help negate that narrative. There's have been a lot of things and stereotypes that's been said around Detroit youth about, our future. Some of us think that Generation Z is, the lost generation, and I believe that's different. I said once before on a panel similar like this that Generation Z is ironically at the end because Z is at the end of the alphabet, and that's because we are the means to the end. Generation Z is the future. We are the now, we are the leaders, and a heavy investment into Generation Z will allow us to continue the work that you all have been doing, the prolific work around our city, and also not only continue this work, but improve on this work as well to help accelerate the development and growth of our city. I'm Logan Newman. Thank you for having me.
Nonprofits are facing an unprecedented challenge to recruit leadership, especially in key CEO and fundraising roles. What role can philanthropy play in helping address this leadership and talent challenge? And to make it more broader, how can we start to build sustainable and intentional career pathways into the philanthropic ecosystem?
I think succession planning is important. As I think about Detroit, just a gap, in my opinion, is succession planning, right? We should all have a bench of folks that we're mentoring and training up to be able to take our jobs when we're, or not take our jobs. Yeah, y'all know what I'm saying. I got to look when I say it that, not take our jobs, but, be prepared to fill those roles when we decide to move on. I also think it's important for funders to invest in programming, right? That leadership programming and other types of training to help to get folks ready, and get them ready to have certain skill sets to be able to take positions, because sometimes you can look at a position and think that it's easy to do it, but you might not have you might think, oh, it's easy to fund. Well, there's a lot that goes into funding. It's not just like we write checks all day, right? Like this is something that we have to have a specific skill set, right, in order to do this job. And I think it's important to have training and to have leaders who are willing to mentor and to bring people along. I think mentorship is key. And a lot of times we're so careful because we don't want people to knock us out of our space, right? And honestly, collaboration is the most important thing when you're trying to grow an organization. And you'll be surprised, to have diversity of age and diversity of race and diversity, you need folks at the table to help you figure out, how to be the best possible organization as possible. And let me just say one other thing. I think it's important for us to find those youth and those people who are not seen, right? There are a lot of times we have leaders who have potential sitting right around us, right? And we need to really tap into supporting, like this young man, Logan. So we see you, Logan.
I think there are a number of things that I would answer that question with. Number one, I'm going to speak personally, which is as someone who's at the tail end of the baby boomer generation, barely. Folks like me can't stick around too long. So, quietly, subtly, find ways to encourage your friends and colleagues who are older to maybe not stick around in their jobs too long, to create some opportunity. No, I'm serious. I'm serious, because what's happened is, no, but there's a real generational thing happening, right? I'm 60, people my age, we feel like, oh, I got another 15 years, Well, that's great for us, and it'll feel great for some of you when you get there. But if we don't keep leadership positions moving along and open, then there's less opportunity for younger people to come in unless they do their own thing, which is also good. So part of it is like moving, like for the older leaders in the community, like not staying put for too long. The other thing is to embrace more creative models of leadership so that there isn't necessarily just this sort of hierarchical thing. Another thing I would say is a program we cherish so much that we offer to our grant partner leaders and CEOs, which is a fellowship program which provides them with an opportunity to leave for several months. It's a funded opportunity, and what that does for them is a lot of things. It opens up worlds of possibility. Some people come back and say, hey, I don't have to be in this forever, but they also come back and do really phenomenal things in their organizations. But when they go, other people in the organization get to step up and take on leadership roles and realize, oh, I can do that. And then the leader comes back and says, oh, they can do that. And the board says, oh, this leader isn't the only one who can do that. And it just gives people different perspectives about how a lot of people are really able to serve in these roles. And then, of course, the last thing is there has to be investment in staff and staff development. So don't be afraid to ask your funders for that money. Don't be afraid to ask us for it. If you need it, please ask us for it. We know you need it.
I would say we need to create opportunities for people to engage after you have these leadership roles. I think people stay. So as a person who doesn't have much of a personal life, I get a lot of my sense of meaning from the work that I do. And I'm already projecting to, people are always rushing to retire. I'm like, I don't want to retire. I like what I do and I get a sense of purpose from it. And I feel like other folks may be the same, and especially like, you get invited to do panels. People pay for your opinion. Like you're invited to advisories. It gives you, a reason for being when you do this work. So who would want to step down? Like what happens after that? So I feel like I've been thinking about it a lot. For me, it's like writing a book. So that's a thing that an older person can do that still has meaning and can contribute to the work. But I'm 51. So I'm constantly thinking about like what does come after retirement. I feel like if there were more talk about that and ways that you could continue to plug in after you leave your leadership role and still have meaning, people would tap out.
So when you survey the landscape of philanthropy in Detroit, what excites you right now and what concerns you?
The list of concerns can be prolonged, so I'm just gonna stick with what excites me. What excites me is seeing smiles on faces, seeing tears of joy coming down our eyes, just being in the room and feeling the essence of someone who really had a need and it was fulfilled, sacrificing something or giving something away, or I'm sacrificing my time, energy, money, whatever it may need to help someone who is less fortunate feel fortunate. And I believe that's what real philanthropy is. We talk about giving money and institutional giving and fundraising, things of that nature, but the real philanthropy is actually getting your hands dirty and seeing the fruits of your labor, actually seeing, if you invest money, seeing that money go to work and seeing the impact of what that money creates. But on a holistic level, just being there, just being in that moment, just having a holistic moment with somebody. And also just, being there for someone, you never know what anyone is going through nowadays. And I do believe, we live in this such corporate sense, this industrialistic world, that we also forget that people are actually people. So just being there for people, just, feeling that aura, giving your energy to someone so they can feed off of it, because you never know what that may go through. They may be the next president, they may be the next mayor, you never know, but just being in that room with that person and sacrificing your time to give to someone, especially if you're someone of high caliber. I get it all the time being a professional athlete. I go play basketball with kids. Like when I'm riding down the street, I get out of my car and I see kids playing basketball. I get out and shoot a couple hoops, because who am I? Like I used to be that child playing basketball in the middle of the streets, and it would have been so amazing to see a professional drive down my street and to take a couple seconds out their day to actually talk with me and shoot a couple hoops with me. So I definitely suggest and recommend just taking time out to be on a holistic level, actually see the impact that you're creating and be a part of it and witness it.
Well, I can tell a story of the evolution of the organization where I've worked for a really long time, and it makes me hopeful. A lot of you may remember, 20 years ago, which is 20-something years ago, which is when I started, you read guidelines that you looked up in the library, you put a proposal together based on what it said you had to do, and you mailed it in, and maybe you made a call, and you sort of hoped for the best. But then over time, for one thing, technology has allowed us to be more interactive, right? And so what I feel hopeful about is the evolution of how we do our work and how we're able to do our work and really have no excuses for not doing our work, which is not to be this office where you mail the proposal, but the opposite of it, right? So now it's not about, how do we say the right thing and send it to that place? It's how do we go out into the community and listen and make the most of our resources, which we're very privileged to have. That is a total inversion of the paradigm of how philanthropy was practiced 20 years ago when I started. So I'm very hopeful about that. And when we say as funders that we want to be driven and focused by what community needs, you guys got to hold us accountable to that. It doesn't mean we can say yes all the time. It means we still have to say no most of the time, because there's so much need and so many wonderful ideas to fund relative to the money we have. And by the way, when we do what is asked of us to fund multiple year, that means every year we don't get to start over from scratch with our budget. So there's always tension in this work. But directionally, we've really changed. And if sometimes we don't show up that way, please tell us in the nicest way. Don't be afraid you won't get a grant because you've said something we don't want to hear. We actually need to hear what it is that we could be doing better. And I at least can say for my team, we give you credit for that courage. We wish you didn't have to feel brave to tell us stuff that maybe you think we don't want to hear, but we get the power imbalance, we really do. So please be direct, please be authentic, and know that we're saying we want to work this way, and we really mean it. Certainly in my organization, we do want to work this way, but we need to rely on you to, be candid with us and allow us to continue to evolve philanthropy in this direction from where we've come.
At the beginning of this program, we recognized the major sponsors that made this year's AFP National Philanthropy Day events possible. We want to take a moment now to recognize the additional companies, people, and organizations that contributed to this celebration of philanthropy. Now let's continue our look at this year's AFP National Philanthropy Day honorees and the contributions they have made in the community. Here's our next group of award recipients.
About 20 years ago, I met with Jim Nicholson for the first time. And I remember thinking, no matter what happens in this meeting, I'm going to learn a lot. 20 years later, whenever I meet with Jim Nicholson, I still learn something in every conversation.
A lot of the success of our YMCA and the city of Detroit is in large part due to the Nicholsons' commitment to the city and the YMCA.
They've done so many great things for the Y, and
whatever success I had in the CEO role here, much of it is owed to their wise counsel.
I think it's really quite amazing to see a family commitment to the community like the Nicholson family. The entire family is involved in giving back in the community, and I think that's really very impressive for a locally owned company that has been here for many years to do so much to give back to the nonprofit sector.
I knew Neil and highly respected Neil and his wife, actually. And so it was a great honor for me to nominate Marie for the Neil Shine Award. They were two of a kind.
She's not only a talented journalist and anchor, she's also a kind and authentic person, a genuine person who has a servant's heart.
She's given back to so many nonprofits, from U of D Mercy to Lighthouse, to South Oakland Shelter and more. There's so much more to Marie and her quiet philanthropy than people realize.
You know, Marie is just a dedicated servant leader who uses her position as a journalist wonderfully, not just to draw attention to issues happening in the community in general, but what organizations are doing to try to respond and elevating opportunities for people in the community to support and get involved in these solutions for those challenges.
Without people like AAA, we couldn't possibly deliver the kinds of services that we provide to the citizens throughout Southeast Michigan who have been impacted by crime. They're always there. They always understand the impact of the families that we serve. They understand the ugliness of what we do, and they're always ready to say, look, we'll give you a hand. So their impact has been phenomenal with us.
My real purpose in life is having a positive impact on somebody else. And I think that's what AAA is doing. I mean, they're really making an effort to find ways of impacting other people.
It's a quiet help. It's not gaudy, it's not out in the open, it's not fireworks, it's not let's see how great we are. They do it quietly, silently, and the impact's phenomenal.
As I mentioned earlier, the AFP National Philanthropy Day Breakfast Roundtable took place at Durfee Innovation Society. Founded by Life Remodeled, the former school building now houses several nonprofits and provides services for Detroit residents. CEO Chris Lambert spoke to guests about his organization's mission and vision.
Thank you for coming to the Durfee Innovation Society. I do want to tell you why this place exists and why Life Remodeled repurposes vacant school buildings. The reason is because we're absolutely convinced Detroiters have all the talent they need, but many don't have access to all the opportunities they deserve. And so what we do is we repurpose large vacant school buildings into one-stop hubs of opportunity for entire families to thrive. And we fill these buildings with the best and brightest nonprofit organizations who are moving the needle in three areas: youth programs, health and human services, and workforce development initiatives. Then we help them collaborate to achieve far greater outcomes than they could ever possibly achieve alone.
Our last roundtable focused on the current state of philanthropy, new challenges, and the importance of collaboration. This year's co-chair of the AFP National Philanthropy Day Committee, Eileen Savage from the Cranbrook Educational Community, led the conversation with panelists Michael Bickers of PNC Bank, Kelly Ray from Plant Moran, Cynthia Rowell with the Max M. and Marjorie S. Fisher Foundation, and Nakia Washington from the Council of Michigan Foundations.
Getting to the heart of the matter, we ask a lot of questions as fundraisers, and I have been an unapologetic fundraiser for the last 30 years. We ask a lot of questions, we dig into the heart of the matter, and we try to figure out what makes a person tick. And I think what makes a person tick also makes their work life tick and makes their career tick. It's about their own passions that are then translated into the work that they do. My personal story that I will share quickly with you to give the group an example of what I'm looking for is I lived in Bloomington, Indiana for a long, long time. And while I was there, I was very privileged actually to work with Habitat for Humanity there, and I worked on our women's builds. And so over the course of 10 years, I roofed 10 houses and was always working on those roofs and shingling those roofs on behalf of women who were particularly in need of that housing, and frequently they were single mothers trying to keep a roof over their families' heads and keep things going. Somebody asked me a personal question about why are you working with Habitat? Why are you shingling houses? Why are you particularly interested in women and making sure that these women have the ability to buy their own homes? It wasn't until somebody asked me the specific question that I put 2 and 2 together. When I was 3 years old, I was buried alive. People from 1965, yes, I'm probably the oldest one, remember the Palm Sunday tornado that went through Toledo, Ohio. Our house was destroyed and I was buried alive. Now, you may think that's a little woo-woo to think about getting buried alive, having your father dig you out, surviving that, and then hearing over the course of your entire upbringing how important a home is and building that home again on that very same site. I believe that's in my DNA. I believe a roof and a sense of place is in my DNA. Add to that the next layer of, yes, I'm a single mother. I became a single mother when my child was 8 months old. Do I care about other mothers who want to build a home, who put a home together, who want to raise their children in place? Absolutely. It's in my DNA. So move all of that forward now into the philanthropic space. Do I care about the nonprofit space making an impact on people's lives? I absolutely do, because it's part of my story. And now in the work at the Lilly School and with Cranbrook, I am able to make sure that I can channel those passions into something meaningful in my career. So that's the backdrop, folks. And I would love it if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit about your personal life in order to help all of us understand how to work better with you in our professional lives. Take it away.
Me?
Yeah.
All right. Hi, everybody. Mike Vickers from PNC. I reached a point, having been with the bank for 30 plus years now, where I just kind of tell it like it is. I don't really have much that I'm embarrassed to talk about, because I think that helps people. So I guess it's easy to be passionate about the work we do and the work you all do when you've experienced a lot of things and a lot of tough times as a child growing up, and the work that you guys are now trying to help those very children. So we left my dad in the middle of the night when I was in the 3rd grade on the east side of Detroit. We lived at Verner and the Boulevard. And that was because he and my mother weren't getting along. And I did not see my dad except for 3 times between then and the 12th grade. And that was part of it. So we ended up moving around a lot, my mother being a single mom. Now I went to 4 different elementary schools. There's only 6 grades. And you find yourself having to make new friends, new neighborhoods, all those kinds of things that damage your confidence, and you diminish yourself because you just don't think you're good enough to be a part of things. Starting at the bank at PNC Bank, again, 30 plus years ago, not thinking you fit, because in that program, I was the only person of color. That was 1986, and I just automatically assumed everybody else there was smarter than I and sort of more learned than I and just more ability. So I was defeating myself before I even gave myself a chance. And so when I see kids today, I can tell, because we read to a lot of preschoolers and everything else, I know they're going to unfortunately go through some of the same things if they aren't already, and I just don't want that for them. And I think that pretty much sums up why I'm passionate about it. So thank you.
Fantastic.
morning, everybody. I'm Kelly Ray with Plant Moran. I think I'm in a unique position on the panel. I'm not a funder or a fundraiser. So at Plant Moran, I lead our not-for-profit services group. So we provide audit, tax, wealth management, consulting services to nonprofits. So I feel incredibly fortunate. I've had a 23-year career with Plant Moran. I started out of middle school, I'll say, at Plant Moran, but no, right out of college. And got to work with nonprofit organizations from the first day. I was really fortunate to be assigned at the time to Sue Perlin's team. Many of you may know Sue. She led, applause for Sue Perlin. She led our nonprofit practice. And I was a kid out of college watching this dynamic woman getting to serve nonprofit organizations in a professional capacity and help them make an impact on their communities. And I just emulated that and wanted to do everything she did, and I did. Now today I have what used to be her role, and she's enjoying retirement, so it works out great. But I just pinch myself every day that I get to work with such amazing organizations that really transform our communities and change the lives of people, and especially children and young people. So I want to talk a little bit about my other role, big role with nonprofits, which is as the board chair of Covenant House Michigan. Yay to the Covenant House team over here. Covenant House Michigan serves and really changes the lives of homeless youth here in Detroit and Grand Rapids. And I was asked to get involved with the organization several years ago, and I visited the campus and met with some of the youth there, and it really hit me and I've been having an emotional couple of days, and this is an odd way to start the panel, so I apologize if I get emotional. I'm a single mom of 3 kids myself, and my oldest is 18, which is right in that age group that we serve at Covenant House Michigan. These kids there were exactly like my kids. I met a young man who dreamed of being an NBA player. My son believes he's going to be an NBA player. I'm hoping for a college scholarship. He wants to go to the NBA, but their dreams and hopes and their lives were so similar to my own children, but they didn't have the support networks that my children have, right? They didn't have someone picking them up when they were going through hard times. The adults in their lives often were doing the opposite of picking them up and supporting them. And I just realized, how close even our own children are to having to experience the same things that these young people were. Mitch Album mentioned earlier about his experience at the homeless shelter and realizing, we're all just a few, bad luck situations away from really experiencing difficulty and trauma in our lives. So that has inspired me and just kept me going with my work with nonprofits and realizing that I can somehow have a really small impact, maybe on a couple young people, and give them a little tiny bit of the support that my own children have.
And Kelly, I want to thank you for being vulnerable, first of all. I think that's beautiful, and I think we need to see a whole lot more of that. Please.
So happy to be here with you all today. I am Cindy Rowell, the Director of Learning and Impact for the Max M. and Marjorie S. Fisher Foundation. But before I held this position, I spent most of my career at my beloved Children's Hospital of Michigan. I was a fundraiser there, much like you are. I was a member of this organization for many years and learned so much from so many who taught me all they knew about fundraising and development and building relationships. What brought me to this work is I was a rebellious teenager. I was pregnant in high school. I questioned rules. I still question rules and structures. I knew that my child deserved an opportunity to grow up with success, and yet I went to a private school. Expectations were high. When I got pregnant, that just changed. People just expected me to fail. They expected them, your child's not going to get what they need. They're all going to be in poverty. And at a really young age, I realized, I was the only one that was going to change that image, that trajectory. And I had to work within systems that existed to help me. And my parents had the foresight to send me to a school for pregnant teens. And I met a lovely group of women, counselors, educators, teachers, the principal. They were a philanthropically funded organization in addition to state funding. And, you know, we had to do the dog and pony show for site visits, no joke. We would help with, you know, some of the proposal writing sometimes in our English classes, just to kind of tell the leadership how we were experiencing the school and the support that we got there. And when I got my job at Children's Hospital Michigan in development, I became connected to these 40,000 annual donors to the organization and learned a little bit about the fact that there was a lot of goodwill in the world trying to find an opportunity that they want to invest in to help people who are just like me. And so through a great deal of just grace and luck, and skill and preparing, and I had it rough, you know, I did. I've been on welfare. I am a college graduate from the University of Michigan. I paid for my own way through college. You know, I mean, I put the time in that it took to get to where I wanted to go. And I think that with opportunity and with support from others who understand your situation and are willing to help, anything's possible.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Nakia Washington. Most of you know me as Kia. I'll try out Washington Sorosky. I got married 10 days ago, so I'll share that here. So yeah, really happy to be here sharing the stage with you all. I too, when you say, Kelly, you're different than us on stage, I think we're all a little bit different. I think we're kind of like, you know, a mashup of the different forms of philanthropy. And I really relate to what Cindy was saying, that I have benefited from philanthropy in so many ways throughout my life, that I was exposed to philanthropy first as, you know, as a recipient, as a beneficiary, but then also understanding as I got to understand the industry more, that I was, or excuse me, as a benefactor, but that I was also a beneficiary in so many ways, extending the definition of philanthropy beyond just big dollars and big names and into how I shared my time. The organizations that I participated in college, I was a fundraiser for Dance Marathon Children's Miracle Network, which supported children's hospitals in Toledo, St. Vincent's in Toledo. And so, so it's always been a part of my life. Going back a little bit, as Michael shared, like an early story, and Eileen, you as well, when I was in third grade, my family moved from the suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, Maple Heights, Ohio, to Walled Lake, Michigan. And if you know anything about those, it was a very stark difference. I thought Black people were like the majority of people in the world, and that flipped my narrative, which a little bit being older, I think Black people are the majority of people in the world globally, but that shifted my perspective, because then I was in a class with Jewish kids, with kids from Korea, with more white kids than I had seen in my life, but not only just racial demographics, but then the socioeconomic differences that I experienced were drastic. So when I was going to my friend's house, they, you know, had all these things that I had never seen before, and I learned at a really young age to code switch and to be in different environments, to have a different lived experience than I would, you know, portray just to get along at that time. And that has really, I say that's the, you know, that was my early training ground for the work that I do as being a bridge builder. So I have also trained as a fundraiser. I am passionate about philanthropy. I'm a researcher of Black philanthropy. I really believe in being a bridge connector. I think a lot of times there's like this big gap between those who give away funds and those who need funds, right? And it's like, how do we just make that more relational? And also, how do we move, for me, what I'm very passionate about is how do we move those funds? Because a lot of times, you know, that socioeconomic gap also is cultural as well. And how do we move funds the most efficient and effective way to Black communities? So that's how I ended up here, a lot of through my own story and a lot of, you know, what you all shared as well.
I'm curious to hear a little bit more about your assessment right now of philanthropy and fundraising in the Detroit area. Fundraising, as we all know from Giving USA, has dropped. Charitable giving has gone down. It's shocking. and it is a little bit interesting for those of us who look at that side, the research side, as to how that impacts us. But then we're working on the ground day to day, and I'm curious to hear from all of you, assess our fundraising processes, assess the talent, assess the investment that we're putting in talent like AFP. How are we doing? What do you think?
I can take, you guys are going to be better at that one. So from a business perspective, the competition, not just amongst everyone here, but really for dollars globally, is we see more and more, and you guys see it, campaigns for projects that require a lot of money, be it community centers, housing, you name it. When those multi-million-dollar projects are announced, one of the first things you have is a capital campaign. That takes away a lot. Well, it benefits the community, but it takes away a lot of resources for other things as well. And they're highly mechanized. They've got highly paid, in a lot of cases, professionals driving that work, consultants and all these things, and there's only so much sort of funding to go around. So I think that is something that funders and foundations are going to have to deal with. I know we deal with it all the time.
I want to just comment on your question about the talent in Metro Detroit in our area. I work with a lot of different nonprofit organizations, so I see a lot of development teams. The talent is outstanding. The talent in our community in this area, yes, is absolutely outstanding. But the talent is spread thin and exhausted, I think, right? And I hear you, yes. Giving was up during the pandemic, which I think shocked everyone, but I'm not surprised given the hard work that I saw coming out of development teams at nonprofits during that time. They were, all of you were hustling every day to get that money and keep your organizations afloat. And you can't sustain that forever, right? Everybody probably needs a nap. And the needs in the community only continue to increase, and there's more competition for the dollars, and more, everybody has big dreams about what their organizations are going to do. So that's my concern, is just how thin everyone is spread, and that we need more of you in the community.
I love to innovate. I love to try new ideas. I get really excited when we think about next generation philanthropy, when we think about what's coming on the cusp. The reality is that not only are people fundraising different, people are investing differently. This is just a pivot we're seeing with the tech boom and what's happening and where people are putting funds. My brother's in blockchain and cryptocurrency, so we've got that over there happening, right? So it's really, I think, thinking about where folks are in the future, right? And I think for your question about how we're doing in Detroit, I spent a couple years doing research in the Pacific Northwest in Seattle, and I think that we could benefit a lot from paying attention to trends that seem a little bit scary, honestly, doing something new. I think we could be a little bit more bold. I think and me being totally in this space, and we can just go back to some of the same practices sometime that we have, because we are working so much and we're stretched thin, and to be able to innovate and get creative and have ideas is actually a privilege, right? So I say this not saying just go do something new, understanding that it's challenging, but I think we have a great network of here in Michigan. That took me to go out to Seattle, and was like, oh, actually, I love philanthropy because of the what we have here in Michigan. I've been exposed to so much, but looking at other industries, seeing what's going on, seeing some more progressive thinking about impact investing, thinking about how you're telling your stories in different ways and where your donors are. The donors of tomorrow, as we see this shift in wealth, this big shift in wealth that's happening, that is going to be one of the largest in history. Who are those people? and how are they giving? Because they're giving, and folks are not wealth hoarding as much as they used to, right? So it's interesting to hear that fundraising dollars are down. And I think we come from a lot of tradition here in Michigan and Detroit. And I think we just have to, we've got to see, like, what are they doing in other areas? What are they doing in the global south? What are they doing in Europe? And really bring that here. Because I think, as you said, we have amazing people, we have amazing talent. And so maybe it's also funders to be able to fund that innovation right in that space and these ideas. So yeah, I get excited about the future. I think we're on the cusp of doing new things, but we did need to give space for people and the capacity for folks to do that.
So I look at this issue as it's interesting, and I don't have data behind it, so this is just my opinion. But what's the role of public policy, and why do we have this explosion of need, right? What are we doing wrong? Are we not educating people for jobs? Are we not attracting, businesses that pay a living wage? What's going on in our school systems? Why do we tolerate, a 15% reading proficiency rate among third graders? What do we need to do to change those things to reduce the need, for one thing? And how can public and private partnerships work together to fund big ticket problems, right? So that's sort of the position I take from it. I don't think that I know there's not enough money in the pie to address all of the needs that are out there. And so my position at the Fisher Foundation includes evaluation work, and I'm the person that's putting out the key performance indicators and designing some of the reports that I know all of you wish didn't exist or existed in a more collaborative process, and I'm working on that. I am. But I also need to be able to discern how your organization stands out from your organization, because I have 500 applications for maybe 10 that I can fund. And I have to be able to somehow make sense of the information in front of me from a strategic lens rather than just some other arbitrary factor around our history with you or I don't know, who you are as a leader. It's more than that. And so I would say we can't keep sustaining an increase in, for impact organizations and their growth. We do need more collaboration and more alignment. And I do think that we need more public and private partnership conversations that lead to success in kind of restoring the middle class and creating living wages for people in our state.
It's time now for our final group of AFP National Philanthropy Day award recipients. Just like all of tonight's honorees, they were nominated by individuals or organizations who've seen the impact of their generosity. Take a look.
But the Community Foundation has been an incredible partner in our community since it was formed, I think about almost 40 years ago. And they have helped hundreds of nonprofit organizations in Southeast Michigan over the years.
In our dealings with them, our meetings, they're always interested in hearing, what are the needs in the community and what does Forgotten Harvest need as an organization to help meet that need.
Community Foundation has truly proven its success as a very good regional philanthropic partner and a leader that listens to the needs of our Metro Detroit community. And it tries to make investments that lead to direct care of children and adults that improves their quality of life, whether it's immediate or long term.
Thank you, and thank you to the Community Foundation for being such a great partner in our mission.
Shamir is the physical manifestation of someone who advocates for their community on a 25/8 basis.
She is brilliant, she is kind, she is generous in her time and in her approach with other people. She's already founded her own nonprofit at 17 years old.
She hit the ground running, but she also came in dedicated to finding a way to get younger folks involved in city government.
I think her love for community and her big heart allows her to freely give, and I believe that's why she's blessed in so many different ways.
Shamir has taken a leadership role and has been able to help facilitate getting out over $200,000 in grants to organizations around Detroit, especially ones that are serving young people or are led by young people.
I can't wait to follow the chapters in Shamir's life.
I met Todd Saxey about 8 years ago when we were looking to move into another building, and he got pulled in as a passionate person wanting to help support growth in Detroit.
He's like a mentor because he's been in this landscape for so long. He knows it well, and so he can point you in the right direction. But the choices are ultimately yours. But he's going to give you the right information.
Our phone a friend whenever we need, to help get a refrigerator moved for a family or, get bikes built for our kids. They are always there when we need them.
He's not just some guy that's going to drop a check and walk off. Todd's going to roll his sleeves up and get involved. He's going to make introductions when you need to make introductions. And if he has to be the guy to make the first domino fall, I've seen him go above and beyond. And so he's well deserving of this award and any other awards you're going to think of because he's a great guy.
He's the example of what philanthropy looks like. His commitment and dedication to really moving the needle is what everyone should do.
Congratulations to all of the AFP National Philanthropy Day honorees. You can read more about them at npddet.org. That's going to do it for this special presentation of National Philanthropy Day 2023. Thanks for watching. Just a reminder that Giving Tuesday is coming up on November 28th. We hope you'll give back to your community by donating or volunteering on that day. For the Greater Detroit chapter of the Association of Fundraising Professionals and for Detroit Public Television, I'm Stephen Henderson. Take care of yourself and good night.
Support for National Philanthropy Day 2023 is provided by the Kresge Foundation and by these sponsors: Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation, Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan, Corewell Health, the Henry Ford, W.K. Kellogg Foundation, Wayne State University, Cranbrook Educational Community, Henry Ford Health, Leader Dogs for the Blind, Nonprofit Personnel Network, Plant Moran, AAA, the Auto Club Group, Autism Alliance of Michigan, COACT Detroit, Diversified Portfolios Incorporated, Hammond and Associates, Judson Center, Macomb Community College Foundation, Melissa Weiss, Multimatic, Oakland University, Saxey Construction, Schoolcraft College Foundation, Vista Maria, Walker Miller Energy Services, and the YMCA of Metropolitan Detroit.